Hi traders, welcome to Animal Markets. My name is Chris. We'll be focusing on the financial markets, taking a look at how basically you can compare, currencies, currency pairs, and to find out the best setups. What I mean with that is basically you can take a look at a bunch of euro crosses, for instance, euro currency pairs, and see, does the euro look strong, weak, and you can do that, for other currencies and see which pair specifically might have the best odds, right? If you see, for instance, the Aussie is looking strong, but the pound is looking weak. So for that point of view, maybe the pound odd is the best currency pair. That's what I want to keep in mind when we take a look at the charts. But first of all, a couple of things. First of all, check out animalmarkets.com for the Christmas early special. All right. And second of all, also please note that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk. Please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is for informational and educational purposes only. By continuing watching this webinar, you agree with this disclaimer and you are aware of the risk involved when trading. Please visit animalmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity to find out if this webinar is suitable for you. All right, with that said, before we dive into the charts, I just already mentioned it. Christmas comes early with Animal Markets. More info by going to the main page and then clicking on Apply Now, this red button right here. All right, and that will bring you to this page with more info. Now, with regard to the topic I just mentioned, it's also useful to keep in mind that we have a market sentiment, so it gives you a little bit of idea about that with regard to which currency pair could be, interesting to compare. You can also compare with the Supreme Edition, which is a plugin belonging to MT4 and MT5. It's from Admiral Markets. 60 extra features. Actually, here you see a page dedicated to that, and there are some features there included in this plugin that help you also compare those currencies and currency pairs. Let's take a look at the market heat map. That also helps a little bit with that. Not only looking at currencies, but also just financial instruments in general, as you can see here. And this dashboard shows some ups and downs, winners and losers for today at least. With regard to the pairs, you can see here which ones are doing well, especially your odd, pound New Zealand, that are sticking out. And with regard to the ranges, it's specifically pound and New Zealand that are winning at this point. So that gives you a little bit of info about the volatility as well, which is useful. All right, so let's continue here. 1 second. There we go. Let's move these charts like this. There we go. Alrighty, let me change pairs. This is not so interesting. This is better. All right. So yesterday, euro dollar, we were talking about it, that it didn't have much space to the S1, and that proved to be correct, right? We were looking at this currency pair and indeed price not moving much to the downside. In fact, slowly but surely going upwards. And today also made a little bit of a break to the downside, but then closed up again. Quite a slow movement that might be due to the fact that later today there's the FOMC statement and news event and perhaps interest rate increase in the US, which of course could have some impact on the US dollar, although probably some of that increase of the interest rate in the US is priced in current market. There could still be some volatility connected to that decision or lack of decision, of course. At the moment, it probably seems likely, but you never know. So that will be a couple of hours from now, I believe, maybe 3.5 hours. Your dollar, not surprisingly, is a little bit slow moving because of that event, because you can see here, market awaiting that news event. It went down 28 pips, it went up 40, and then it went down again 22. So not much movement here, and price kind of like bouncing back up and down. So, therefore, that's not surprising with a news event like that. But after the news event, basically, I think that euro dollar really is not, I think, not really a pair that is interesting at this point, unless price were to break below S1 or break above the weekly pivot point. In this zone, it doesn't really seem to be much of an advantage. If there's a break above the weekly pivot point, there could be some test of R1 and R2. If it breaks below the S1, there could be a test of S2, which in a way is also a bouncing spot. So I think these Admiral Markets pivot points are quite useful for breakout zones and the potential space up or down. Otherwise, between weekly pivot point, the green level, and the S1, the blue, it's kind of a neutral zone at this moment. Yes, there is a resistance trend line here, but ultimately, I think within this zone, it's just ranging at this point. So not that interesting. Now, with regard to comparing currencies, basically what I do is I just scan a lot of currencies and then I start to connect um, basically various currencies with each other. So I would look at the euro dollar, pound dollar, all the majors, but then look at the minors and the crosses as well. So, and the slowly but surely we're building a story. So if the euro dollar, for instance, earlier today, I thought that the euro dollar was not going to move down, although it was in a downtrend. And I believe that there are a decent number of traders probably looking for downside. That euro downside didn't look good to me because of the event that was around the corner. And when we have an event like that, typically price doesn't move too much. So if anything, I thought euro dollar would bounce to the upside, which indeed happened. So I was not a big particular fan of trading the euro yen, even though it was maybe in a bearish structure, um, and it did move down. I'm not saying that anyone who traded that would have made an okay trade. It's just that I thought the space was limited, and I'm talking about finding trades that have a little bit more space. So it depends on your goal too. But from my point of view, the euro yen was halfway triangle. Yes, it did break below these two support trend lines right here. Let me show you. Right here, it did break below that. So there could have been some space to this. And when price was here, there could have been a little bit of space there. I didn't like that particular idea that much because dollar yen was still in a bullish kind of environment. Euro dollar was in a bouncing environment. So one of the reasons why I skipped this. Now it's not perfect as you can see, but from a technical point of view, I don't think that space was that great. And part of the equation was the euro dollar and dollar yen. Now the dollar yen did move down lower, which took the euro yen with it. But I don't think that that was a very clear or obvious thing for the dollar yen to do. It was, in an uptrend, it still is, and it was pretty close to this weekly pivot point, which indeed has still been acting so far as we can see as a bouncing spot. So, although the euro yen moved down, I don't think that was a great trade necessarily. So this is, I think, how we can connect things, right? We see that dollar yen is an uptrend, still above support, and even though it would move a little bit, that there could be a good chance of a bounce at that support. Your dollar also, to me at least, seems like it was in a bouncing spot. So this is how we can kind of filter out some pairs and say, okay, what is interesting, what is not interesting. For instance, earlier this week, I was looking at odd yen because price was in a triangle here with the dollar yen in an uptrend. And so it looked, the dollar yen, the yen looked weak. And a breakout to the upside would further fuel that weakness. The odd USD at the time was about here, making momentum to the upside. I think price was about here at the time. So we see momentum, a retracement, and it looked like a continuation potential there. So adding those things together, it looked like odd yen was interesting. In fact, the odd strength looked good when I looked at various pairs across the board. Odd USD was making momentum to the upside. Um, Odd yen, pound odd was moving lower. And then I looked at the euro odd, and the euro odd at that time was showing momentum, correction, a failure here to break this top, and was breaking below the support trend line at the time. So I took a short as well on euro around here at that time. So this is how you can also in a way try to figure out which currency pair could have more space. One of the ways, of course, is just analyzing each pair, analyzing multiple time frames, and just working through that list. But by connecting, kind of seeing the bigger picture, by looking at all of them and gaining kind of a feeling for the currency itself. Of course, with the dollar, we can look at the dollar index or the euro index. That helps too. But by looking at all these currency pairs and trying to see what the base currency is doing, the euro, trying to focus on one of those currencies and seeing if that is a strong one or a weak one, and then matching it with the opposite is also a way of finding the better currency, right? So, or currency pair, I should say. That's the advantage, is that you have 6, 7 major or pretty tradable currency pairs at least, right? Dollar, yen, euro, pound, kiwi, Aussie, CAD, and I'm sure some trade the Swissy. So 7 or 8, and you can then. There are a lot of pairs out there, and by matching strong and weak, you can find the currency pair that has the most potential for strong movement, strong momentum. All right, so just kind of my vision on how you can find space too. Sometimes you can do that by just analyzing all these currency pairs. For instance, how I did that on Tuesday, yesterday, with the Aussie. All right. Then I looked and I thought that personally, odd yen and euro odd looked the best to me. So I traded those. But the Aussie looked strong. In general, I was just looking for one that had the most weakness potential. To me, that seemed like the euro and yen at the time. And indeed, they didn't do too bad, as you can see. Price still moving down, actually lower. Although I got out of that trade at here and at here with the trail stop loss. A bit unlucky with this trail stop loss, but okay, those things happen. No, I actually took profit around here and then a trail here. So 2 trades at the same exit spot. In fact, just at different times. A bit unlucky with the trail. Otherwise, I think I would have already hit my second take profit. But can't have everything sometimes. And from a wave perspective, I thought this was an ABC. All right. So that's some a way of finding chart space is by comparing currencies and currency pairs. And the Forex offers an opportunity for that. Now, other instruments could be also compared. Of course, you can do analysis of different stock indices, right? And you can do different analysis of different CFDs, commodities, and start comparing them too, seeing if there's any information you can get from comparing Forex and commodities with each other. And so you can do this inter-market analysis as well, not only within the Forex, of course, but also within different kind of categories as well. But I, as you know, like Forex trading the most personally, but this inter-market analysis is definitely something you can get a benefit from beyond Forex too. So let's see if there's anything to conclude from this type of analysis today. I think, as I said, the market will probably not move much regarding the dollar until that news event. But with that said, I think the pound is looking slowly but surely bullish. It is bouncing off this support level we were talking about yesterday, and seems to be breaking as well resistance like this. So could be slowly moving into a bullish kind of territory. Now, I think personally I would rather check it out tomorrow after the event. But if there is something like this, a bullish engulfing twin, or if today price moves up, it depends because if the dollar does have an interest rate, this could also move down. So that's why I wouldn't want to trade it before that. But um, there are a couple of scenarios that could take place: is that price moves lower but doesn't break this bottom and then moves up again and ends up somewhere around the weekly pivot point. That looks bullish to me if it does something like this, right? And I would look for maybe a retracement tomorrow, and I would look for continuation. If, however, price breaks below this bottom today, news event sends it lower, and then we see a bear flag, that could be also a reason for more downside. So a lot depends on the momentum, if we see any particular price movements during the upcoming event. Pound dollar, just like your dollar, in a way, a little bit in a neutral territory at this moment. So not much info there. Dollar yen is making a big consolidation and correction, still above the weekly pivot point, still looking a little bit more bullish at this point. Unless it breaks below the weekly pivot point, that would change the view, and I don't think it's an uptrend in that case. But at this point, probably still is. All right. But this bearish candle is pretty strong. So would it be better to see a break of that candle for any upside hopes? All right, let's continue. Aussie looking strong, but is running into some resistance up in here. Something to be aware of. This resistance zone, getting closer to that. Kiwi, I was looking for a little bit more retracement than an upside. That retracement didn't happen. It just continued right there, right then. Kiwi looking pretty strong with this momentum at this moment. Dollar CAD totally in balance. Euro yen slight downside at this moment, but otherwise still in a triangle. Pound yen slightly looking bullish to me at least because of this slow correction lower. But it would need to break above this channel for any upside potential. Your pound going sideways, your odd falling, your New Zealand falling, pound odd, pound New Zealand falling. But the thing with those pairs is that I don't see any, how much space could be remaining at this point for any trades. I know that Nana was trading the euro odd downside from this pullback here. I'm not sure where he traded it exactly, but today he was trading it, so he caught this fall basically. So that was good. That made sense. But at this moment, I'm not sure if there's anything left remaining in that piece. Now there could be, if there's some 50-minute flag like this, there could be one more lower low. Something to think about. Maybe maybe on an hourly chart, small bear flag here could send it one more time lower. So when we scan through these pairs, we see that there is quite some, either some range and indecision, or price is well on its way lower, like the pairs I just showed you. So from that point of view, nothing really seems to be that interesting. New Zealand CAD moving nicely. But that's more of the New Zealand and odd part of it. All right. Otherwise, we can take a look at some of these other instruments, just scrolling if there's anything interesting quickly to check. But I'm not seeing anything at this moment. Just wanted to check, make a quick check here quickly. All right, this is the odd yen trade I took, by the way, right in here to be precise. And the price still moving higher, but it is at resistance. Yeah, so that's maybe the major story. Aussie and New Zealand moved nicely. I traded those. We had an extension today, but considering the fact that they've moved so much, I would be a little bit skeptical to trade, even further continuation of those pairs. It might happen, but we got to realize that those have moved already quite a lot in the same direction this week. Now they could push through. It's just that would be already like the third time already, I guess, depending on how you count. Or so they just becoming a little bit less interesting, I think, to trade in that direction. In my view, with an event that close by, the others seem to be quite in balance and just waiting till we get the news, going flat, making ranges. So I don't think today is really not an easy trading day from this perspective, and could be a good to wait till that event is over. See how the market loosens up after that. Problem is that tomorrow there's an interest rate and pound interest rate, euro and pound interest rate too. So that might dampen as well the movement again. But yeah, that's tomorrow afternoon GMT time. Maybe we can take a look at some long higher time frames, long-term charts, and dollar CAD could be good for breakout to the upside, I would say, making a correction like this. So looking like a bullish structure to me. And I think the same is valid for the pound yen. Personally, I know there's divergence between these tops. That's true. But then again, this could be just like an ABC. This could be like a double top. Just like a correction for more upside. Like that. So yeah, if it breaks, and it breaks this top specifically, that could be a good breakout up in here. But the yen would have to weaken. And at this moment, that is looking not as good as it did yesterday, but still, I think it's a decent potential for that to happen, up to 115. Let's see how price responds to 113. So that's an important equation, is how the yen is going to handle that level. How is the Aussie going to respond to this resistance zone? Those are things I'm going to try to measure and monitor, because that could be an important kind of decision on how, what kind of setups might be interesting this week. And the euro, right? Will it break to the upside or to the downside? Pound two, break up or down, will provide some good info. If the Aussie is reaching resistance, for instance, right, and it stops there, but the pound and euro dollar break to the upside, so that could mean that pound odd retraces and pound New Zealand, right? We're in a downside, but when those things happen, price might make some retracement on these pairs to the upside. If pound dollar breaks up and dollar yen moves up, that also could send the pound yen higher. So this is how we can match analysis of two pairs and conclude what the third might do, at least. Why it might be interesting. So all in all, if anything, I think I'm not saying that the pound odd, pound New Zealand, New Zealand, euro odd are going to bounce to the upside immediately. They might fall a little bit more or a lot more, I don't know. But a retracement could occur eventually. So I'm not a big reversal trader, but it's something that I will keep an eye on. And it does a little bit depend also on the patterns I see. If price moves like this, shows a bear flag, that does not look like a reversal. But if price then starts to slow down, starts to make a falling wedge, and we see a jump up and a flag, that, yes, that would be a reversal worth taking, I think, in my view at least. Um, but maybe more interesting, I think, could be the pound yen upside and pound dollar upside, and even still dollar yen upside. Although this is a strong bearish candle, so that has to be gone before I would, or broken, or engulfed before I would be interested. Now, I might be wrong with this pound yen upside. Don't get me wrong; it doesn't have to. But moving averages are still aligned. This is moving choppily to the downside. I think that pound, as I said, is still at support. Dollar yen is still at support. So if pound dollar bounces and breaks and dollar yen bounces and breaks, then if both do that, the pound yen should also follow suit and move to the upside. So that's my view at least. If it does move lower, then I would still think that this zone right here, i.e., just deleted my chart, 1 second. Okay, let me open a new one. Then that pound yen, I was talking about the pound yen, that bouncing spot could be, that support zone could be a bouncing spot. All right, that's it for now. Any questions? Otherwise, I think we could maybe take a look at some other instruments. I did that quickly with some of the CFDs. I didn't see anything interesting. Any commodity you want to take a look at, or indice, maybe index? There we go. I got my pound yen back. So what I wanted to say about the pound yen was that if it does move lower, that this could be still a support zone right here. Just in case that, it is moving choppily, but sometimes it can happen. It makes this downside hit support and then moves up. It's possible. So to me, this look corrective, and there's more potential to the upside. But obviously, there's a lot of indecision at this moment. So I think, from this point of view, it depends also a lot on the news event, the upcoming news event. So let me know if you have a particular instrument in mind, otherwise, or if you have any questions about comparing currency pairs. I was trying to show how you can basically, compare different pairs, and see how that could lead to a conclusion about a third pair in a way, or multiple pairs you can compare and then try to make a conclusion about one currency. If you're watching this recording later on YouTube, please check out admiralmarkets.com education, click on Forex and CFD webinars. For new webinars, we got tons of them each week, so check it out, and sign up. And with regard to gold, let's take a look. Yeah, price had a bullish day yesterday. Well, it had a bearish start, but it closed bullish. So there was a downside and an up, down and up. So from that point of view, might make a little bit of retracement here. So, but overall, this momentum is pretty strong. So I think probably a fib from here to here makes sense. And a turning spot could be the 23.6 fib or the 38. I think both of them could stop price, could stop the retracement, and send this back down again. Although confirmation via candlestick patterns would make sense, but otherwise, if price does confirm that and shows some bearish candles here, hook back to the 38 and a follow through downwards towards the minus 272 target, minus 61.8 target, I think does make sense. Strong momentum here. So this could be quite a long correction here, making kind of a wave four, and eventually I would expect one more lower low at least, if not more. That's my view though. If it breaks above the 50 fib, then I would be a bit cautious with the bearish analysis. 50 fib is a major level. There's a broken bottom in here. There's a broken bottom in here. 50 fib, obviously. So if it breaks above that, then something else is going on. But if it stays below the 50 fib, it's bearish in my view. I wouldn't expect it to get to 50 fib though, in the sense that I think the 38 and the weekly pivot point will probably be stopping spots, or the 23.6 fib. But any of these three would do. A break above the 50, I would not expect, and would make it less likely. The very max is maybe the R1 and 61.8 and the long-term moving average, but I don't think it'll get that far. If it does, I would already be cautious, because then this upside is going much more than I expected. So would be a little bit cautious with downside in that point. Yeah, that's about it. Perfect. Chris was thinking the same. That's confidence. That's great. So, and let's see then next week, if or later this year, how much it could fall. I think I would hope we will get into this zone here, and that could be an interesting bullish bounce area. I would expect for, I guess, next year. Although let's see what it can do in the last 2.5 weeks. All right, that wraps it up for today. Check out our webinars, check out analytics, the Supreme Edition platform. I showed a few of these, like the pivot points and the Keltner and the mini terminal, plus many more there available in this plugin. And wish you all, above all, good trading, and talk to you soon. Cheers.